Well, hello there and welcome to the Parenting Show. I'm Jennifer Anderson. Joining me on the couch today is my friend, co-host, and parenting expert, Alyson Schafer. We are back for another season of the Parenting Show.
So good to be back.
Yeah, it's nice. We've settled in. First couple of shows are getting underway, and it's nice to be returning to the couch and talking to parents and returning to this couch because we had a few episodes where we were
we couldn't come into studio, but thankfully we Zoomed it, recorded it, got it out to the people.
We can't touch.
No, I know. No, we're still 6 feet. Yeah, although
right.
We're both double vaccinated. We're following all the good protocols. We're encouraging everyone to follow the good protocols.
Yes.
And hopefully we don't have a setback in the fall, but again, we're recording here in Ontario, but to our New Brunswick and Newfoundland people, we hope the same for them and their community spread numbers. And
yeah, and no matter where you live, we're all kind of going through the same issues. There may be a few different mandates or a few different protocols and safety measures that are in each region or in each school or that type of thing, but certainly we're all in this together and we're just trying to navigate our way through, and this is a great show to help families and kids navigate their way through friendship.
Yes, today's topic.
Yes.
Well, because this is one of the little side effects of the pandemic. When we were in lockdown and we weren't doing in-class learning and extracurriculars shut down, that's really hard on kids and their feeling of connection. The way that they know how to make friends is to play, to have somebody slam you into the locker at school, and that's called flirting apparently. I mean, they really rely on peer acceptance, those friendships for their sense of belonging and embeddedness. It's a developmental task of kids, and so then we shut that all down. And some of it went online. A lot of guys have friends that they just game with or whatever that they've never even met in real life. So there, we limped along with social media. But there's a lot of kids who just social life was either challenged over the pandemic or not all kids have a good skill set or the confidence around that. And it can be a real challenge. And it's interesting because as parents, we kind of know that that's what we want for our kids. Not that they all have to, have a million friends and be extroverted and whatever. But if your child is struggling socially, it's very hard for parents to watch. It's distressing for the child, but it makes it distressing for the parent too. We want them. We know they're lovable and likable, and we hate when they're suffering in that way.
Well, and we really went through different stages, right? Because, as we get the news that there is a 3-week shutdown in March of 2020, it's like, okay, we can get through this. It's 3 weeks, and it's kind of an extended, longest March break.
Long March break
ever.
Yeah.
And, but we can get through this. And then you see there's just no end in sight. And so it's draining for a lot of people because it's the unknown. It's not like you can say by this date, things are going to get better. There was different stages, different times, and it just droned on.
And, and the other challenge there was for parents was, again, understanding the importance for kids' mental health to be with their friends and still staying within your bubble. And, a lot of kids were just like, I'm just going over to so-and-so's house. But no, they're not. They're actually going down to the water treatment plant, which is a Toronto locale where all the kids go, and no good happens there, I'll just tell you. That's like not a good thing. Can I just go to the water treatment plant? No. And send some OPP officers down there. I'm ratting that out. But that's when we end up having these sort of bush parties and secret parties, and a lot of parents were like, I don't know who my kids are hanging around with. I don't like what they're hanging around. They're breaking all the social distancing policies. How can I control them? They're lying to me. Can't force them to stay inside. They got to see some people. So that became a real issue for a lot of families over the pandemic, trying to juggle this. I got to keep my kids sane. I got to get them out of their depression. But at the same time, I got to make sure that they're following protocols. And so it was really uncomfortable. I say was. Some people are still, but we're opening up a little bit more now, right? There's some relief here happening. And again, if we do things wisely, we'll keep opening. It's when we start making stupid choices again that we're going to go in reverse. So I really want to encourage us to not get so hasty and to just let's go the slow road forward.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to start in on some questions
Please,
because
yeah.
I think there's a lot to this topic and a
Yes.
lot of different scenarios. So these are questions that were submitted by our viewers. So thank you very much. First question, my daughter's close friend group broke up over the course of COVID. She's been home alone with us ever since. Even though things are more open, she is not even attempting to get out and make new friends. She's sad, but not doing anything about it. It's frustrating. How hard can I push?
Yeah.
So this is something we've already kind of talked about, but the idea of opening up and baby steps.
Baby steps, yeah. Well, the good news is she had time with you. I mean, a lot of families actually said, I wouldn't normally have spent so much time with my teenager. Given their druthers, they probably would have preferred to hang out with their friends.
Right.
But due to the circumstances, we ended up creating this other bond. So there was like some nice little upticks like that happened in families. So that's lovely. And it's terrible when your friend group explodes and we're not really in a situation where the easy way to make friends is accessible to us. I would hope that as the school year opens, the number one place where kids make friends is not like by, going to like an app. You can go to apps and say just looking for pen pals and friendship, but truthfully, the way that people really make friends is you bump into them and you're doing common experiences. So they sit next to you in class and the next thing you know, your desk mate gets put into your assignment and now you have to work on the project, and then now because you're working on the project, you become friends. Or you're on the soccer team together and the coach tells you go collect up the balls, and next thing you know, you're doing. So there's this proximity in real life of doing these tasks together where you start to kind of vet out the people that you like.
Right.
And that's why we have to get kids back out from under our roofs and out there. And if they can't find, if they've been going to the same school, you can kind of feel everyone out and sort of say like, well, that clique is there and this clique is here and I haven't found my people. And I think that's where extracurriculars really kick in, where you can say, maybe you're not going to find them at the school. And don't forget, every year new people get allotted to different schools, right? So maybe there is fresh blood there. Try the different teams and things at the school, but sometimes we have to really look for things outside of the school and say, if you're going to have someone meet you around things that you're interested in, then what are you interested in?
Right.
Like if you're crazy about Harry Potter, then join a Harry Potter book study club, or you know what I mean? If you're really into robotics, then join a robotics club. You're going to meet people like you if you go after pursuits that are in your interest group. So how hard can you push? Well, again, like any human being, you can't mandate them. Can you appeal largely? Can you encourage them to take baby steps? Can you say, look, just give it a try, and if you don't like it, you can withdraw? Or encourage them to call up old friends. I think you push until you don't want to be bothersome, and you want to see whether or not you're actually being effective at getting them to kind of get their little ducky feet moving in the right direction.
Right.
But if all they hear is like, oh, stop it, you keep telling me to make a friend, then it's going to look like you're almost pathologizing.
Yeah.
Like there's something wrong with their situation and you're more invested in their problem than them. And then I would say back off. The tension will happen for them. They'll figure it out.
Well, and this question also doesn't say how old the daughter is. So it's very different for somebody who's 15 versus 5.
Absolutely.
Because you can kind of control the situation with a 5-year-old and put them into settings where there is friends in a park and, start to kind of ease into some of those situations.
Yeah. And that's, and interestingly, again, a lot of times it is absolutely manufactured by the parent, right? You're calling up your friend, or you're calling the teacher and saying, who does he play with in class? I'm going to give me the mom's phone number. I'm going to set up a play date.
Right.
And the kid's like, oh, hi, who are you? I'm supposed to come over and swim in your pool. You don't do that at 14. You don't go, I made a play date for you, honey. There's going to be a friend coming over for Grey's Anatomy and pizza. You don't know her. You're going to love her. Would never fly.
No.
This is parenting show don'ts. Right there.
That's right. And they'd go, what's Grey's Anatomy? Actually, it's been on for 80 years, so they would know
Totally.
Grey's Anatomy.
It's been on since the beginning of the parenting show.
I was just going to say, almost as long. I think we have more
almost as long as the parenting show. Yes.
All right. My son is hanging around with a bad group of guys. They vape and drink and don't come from very good homes. I don't want him seeing these friends, but can't exactly stop him either. How do I help him see that they are a bad influence?
Yeah. So on the one hand, we're pushing them out the door, trying to get them to make friends. On the other one, going like, away, back away. This is obviously very difficult for parents. But I think a couple things to just calm parents down. The first thing to know is that it's not necessarily a guarantee that the fact that they're hanging around with some kids that you don't like their behaviors right now means that your child is going to be a drug addict living under an underpass and drop out of high school. Like, we catastrophize so much. In fact, they might be just trying on some friends for size and then say, you know what, I didn't really like how I felt about myself when I was with them.
Right.
Or, I got into some tense situations where people were drunk and they were that made me really uncomfortable. So we just don't get ahead of yourself is sort of what I'm saying. Calm down, don't get ahead of yourself. The thing too is that there's a real loyalty to friends, and they're clearly checking something out, and you can't pick your children's friends. You can't. So if you want to sway them in a different direction, not control them, not put them in lockdown, not ground them, not refuse them to see their friends. If you do that, what ends up happening is your child will defend their friends. Mm-hmm. They'll say, you don't understand, you don't get me, only my friends understand me, and they'll find some way to go around you to get to their friends. So that's not in the law, and then they'll feel more justified, actually. So that's not going to really help you hit your end goal. If I was going to talk about it, I would share what my concerns are, and that's why I would say, behavior over character. Like if you say they come from bad families, they're a bunch of bad eggs, I don't like your friends, that's insulting their personality and their character.
Right.
So that's not how we attract. What we can say is, I'm concerned because people are using illicit substances, and I'm concerned that that's going to make that an easier or more tempting thing for you. And my love for you, and I want you to stay safe, and I want you to be law-abiding. And so this is concerning. This is my worry.
Right.
So you got to find that line of it's the behavior, it's my worry, and still sort of showing a positive expectation for your child. That they can hang around bad people and not smoke and not drink and not shoplift and not whatever their business that they're getting into, certainly there can be the case where your kid is the positive influence, and says, I don't really want to do that. Why don't we do something better instead? There's nothing to say that your kid's goodness doesn't actually help improve other people's or rehabilitate other people.
Right.
So that you got to kind of tread gently and hope that they will come to their own determination as you kind of reflect and coach back about what you're noticing happening.
Is that extending even an invite to friends to come over? Is it having, maybe getting to know them? To understand or creating an environment that is safe for them? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not going to host a party. We've talked about this before. I'm part of this campaign called #FamilyTalk, and it's a campaign to prevent underage drinking.
Right.
And what we do see is a lot of parents have the faulty idea that if they're going to go out and do it by the water treatment plant, it would be safer if they did it in my basement.
Right.
And so then they host underage parties. And that's actually that's problematic. That increases.
Right. And that's not what I'm suggesting.
No, but to get to know them, absolutely. I think taking
or to understand why there is a friendship there.
Yeah.
Maybe there is more than just what meets the eye.
And if a parent could be curious and creative, how fantastic would that be? Just because they've got a mohawk and they're covered in tats doesn't mean they're like a totally lovely person. Like parents have to drop some of their preconceived ideas. And if your child likes them, that's one of the questions, tell me, like, what is it about this person that really appeals to you? Because they're learning about the kinds of people they like. Mm-hmm. And so this is what I mean about these friend groups that happen in adolescence. They're fluid and they move, and your child they're trying on personas themselves. Am I an academic? Am I a punk rocker? Am I a goth? Am I, and they move around friend groups, and they're trying on different personas. And so just know that it's going to be kind of fluid. And with each friendship, you learn a little bit more about yourself and what you like and what you don't like. And parents can just sort of, I notice when you hang around these friends, your marks always seem to drop. Mm-hmm. Or, oh. And yet, when you were in the school play and you were hanging around this group, your marks went up. So that's curious to me. So we can just give some kind of noticing like that. Or, I notice that, you're always texting, but you always seem to be crying about this friend group of girls. They don't seem to treat each other well. Everyone always seems to be crying, which is sadly common. So that's that noticing and reflecting back rather than, I don't like those people, you can't see them.
Right.
That's not going to get you far.
Okay, another question. My daughter is 7 years old and has a frenemy. They have play dates that always end up in a fight or tears. My daughter is not a saint, but this friend bosses her around and treats her poorly, but she still wants to be her friend. What's a parent to do?
Yeah. I have this great old footage of my kids when they were little, and it's the older daughter being like the pet owner, and her sister is the puppy, and she's just ordering, sit, stay, beg, and it's just, and I see that in the nursery school classroom too, where they'll be like that bossy kind of kid who's in the house center, and it's like, no, you set this on the table, and you give me the grapes, and if you find a friend that will acquiesce to you, and there are lots of the younger siblings that would, like my little Lucy, who's willing to be the puppy.
Right.
She would have been in the play center going, okay, I'll put the grapes on the table. Okay, you can have them. Just because somebody acquiesces, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
But we really, again, the same thing about, where's the mistreatment? I would let them acquiesce to a certain amount, and then, when they're at this age, you still need to be supervising their play dates. So I might step in, not to correct the bossy child, but it's my child that I'm concerned about. So I'm going to take that as the livable, actionable, teach in the moment situation, where I might just check in and say, well, your friend keeps suggesting all the games. Are you okay with that? Or, because he might be, are you okay with, or do you think it's your turn to pick which game you play next? Mm-hmm. Right? Everyone gets to pick their own color crayon. Your friend keeps picking your crayons for you, but you can pick your own crayons. That's your job to do. And I know you're very capable. So you can let your friend know, no, thank you. I'll pick my crayons this time. So sometimes you got to kind of coach them in having a voice and speaking up to these kind of stronger kids. But there's something attractive about these, prominent, let's call them prominent, in their social world, they have some status. And whether it's, boy, if only I was as powerful as them, or, but they seem to tolerate it, and they can go for that kind of status people. So again, I would just expose her to other people, teach her to have a voice, and let her know that she's got options.
We've heard that from other people, the whole idea of a frenemy. Is a frenemy a bad thing, or is it two people? I mean, they're fighting, but they're also finding their place.
Yeah, I mean, they are practicing social relationships.
Yeah.
Right, and so that's what I'm saying. Like, you can't avoid it, but it can be the teachable moment. What does a healthy friendship look like? What does the give and take of social living look like? We don't dominate one another. We need to speak up. We need to share. And so you've got this friend who is your training ground. Right. But I'm going to deal with my child. No, I'm not going to try to correct the bossiness. Now, don't get me wrong. If they're jumping on my couch, then I'm going to say, in our house, we don't jump on the couch, right? Like, I might be instructive like that.
Right.
I might stop a game if it looks like, hey, if we can't play nicely, let's move on to a different game. So I might coach like that. But I'm really just trying to empower my child to decide. But it's very common.
Another similar situation, my son is so competitive. He has to win or he pitches a fit. He's such a sore sport that it's costing him friendships now.
Yeah. Well, boy, so there's a couple things I want to say there. First of all, competitive kids. Sometimes we think about competitiveness as like literally like just, in this case, like sports and games, right? To get the most basketball points or to get the most Monopoly money or whatever.
Right.
But competitive is more subtle too. Competitive is still about the idea that my ego, my self-perception of my worth, is tied to some achievement or performance. That could be anything. That could be school grades. That could be, the kid that says, Mommy, watch me. Who made the bigger cannonball splash? Or where everything has to be a comparator.
Right.
And anything that is a mistake is seen as like somehow being vulnerable and failing. So like life is exhausting for these kids because everything matters. If I didn't push the button in the elevator first, then if I'm not first and best, then I'm somehow failing and losing my worth.
Right.
It's exhausting. So this is about their mindset. This is about having a worldview that says, I have to constantly be proving myself in order to survive, to be successful. So you can see It's almost like it's like oxygen they have to breathe. This isn't something that's going to go away in a second. But what we need to do is to change that mindset. And that's why a classic thing that you hear in parenting is separate the deed from the doer. You hear that, but I don't think parents really ingest what that means. What you're trying to separate, you, the child, are born worthy and you die worthy. And nowhere in between birth and death do you improve or decrease your worth. The fact that you're born made you a full, worthy human being, the same as everybody else. We're all worthy.
Full stop.
Full stop. You don't earn it, you don't lose it. It's not how you measure human worth.
Right.
And then you're going to go through life and you're going to get better at some things. You're going to learn to walk and talk and learn math and learn science and, whatever, make contributions to life. And those are skills and you get masterful, but it doesn't elevate you. It doesn't make you superior over other people.
Right.
And so the way parents inadvertently stimulate competition is, first of all, they're often competitive in their marriage. And they don't recognize it, but notice.
Okay.
Are you kind of a my way or the highway? Do you have to have, how do you solve fights? Who usually wins? Do you cooperate over decisions or do you get passive? So there's usually a competitive environment, or the home becomes a competitive environment because the parents praise. And a lot of homes are in North American individualistic societies, we stimulate cooperation by ranking, judging, appraising, and so we're constantly giving feedback to kids. I was just watching this YouTube video of this little kid who's like maybe 2 or 3, not even really verbal. And they must have trained this kid in Montessori because they have like a little working kitchen. She pulls out some cucumbers. She uses a peeler. She chops them with a little slice. She puts them in a little dish. She eats them. She cleans up her dish. She puts the peelings in the garbage. Like, it's unbelievable. And the whole time the parents are watching, and she's sort of like looking but independent. But never once did they go, look at you peeling that cucumber. You did the water without spilling any of it. Like, we give this constant feedback to our kids. We're like, oh, look at you, oh. And like, how can they not get the message that your performance is being evaluated? Because it's like a bloody ticker tape parade behind everything they do all the time. So we very much appraise kids about everything they're doing. So they get this idea that you've got to achieve, you've got to be the best or whatever. And then of course, you overlay that to play, like sports that literally have point systems. And so here's a kid that's got this idea. My value, the way that I'm going to show you that I'm a good friend or that I'm important or that I'm significant, is I'm going to be the best at this sport. I'm going to win at everything. And so they think that they're doing it to assure their status, their place, their belonging. Good intention. But what ends up happening is they disenfranchise everybody because they're not a good playmate.
Right.
So so first of all, I would say stop praising kids. Stop with the judgment. Notice how much you give a judgmental, even though it's positive judgment, it's still praise.
Yes.
It's still this. Yeah, so we don't want that.
Stop with the ribbons for participation.
Yeah, I mean, everyone gets a ribbon. We got so into that don't hurt their self-esteem thing. It's not helpful. Now, I believe in encouragement. We talk about that as an Adlerian tenet about, pay attention to effort and improvement, to sportsmanship over winning, to how hard that, you got more baskets in than last time. Your skill set's getting better with practice. That's all fine.
Yes.
But who cares about who wins? If you think about it, what's really matter is when you're really winning, is when your friend wants to come back and play with you tomorrow.
Yeah.
The winning is playing longer. The winning is playing again. If you become a bad playmate, no one comes to play with you.
No.
You've lost.
Yeah.
So I think between the dropping of the praise, increasing the encouragement, and getting them to understand that the game is friendship. They don't need to impress their friend. They need to keep their friend.
Yes.
And so that means the give and take. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Who wants to play if you know every time you play, you're going to lose? And if this kid says, every time we play, I have to win, you're kind of saying, so you need to find a friend that every time you play, they lose? Who's going to want that?
Yeah.
It's got to be sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's what keeps it interesting.
Few minutes left, and I'm
Okay.
going to sneak another one in.
Do it.
And this is a heavy one, so
Sure.
it's not necessarily one.
Heavy and answer
good one.
quickly.
Yeah. I think my daughter is a lesbian. She has not come out, but her best friend seems too close. Now she wants a sleepover, and I don't know how to handle it. So a lot of information
Yeah.
that should go into this, but unfortunately I need something a little bit quicker.
Well, I mean, first of all, I hope the parent has given lots of messaging that they have no concern about whether or not their kid's sexual orientation,
Right.
So, and you have to, and those are the little things that you say, all through your parenting, like when you grow up, if you find a partner, a guy or a gal, or like just comments like that. So they're like, by the time they're actually kind of wanting to come out, they're like, I've heard my parents talk about this. I know they're accepting. I know, that's right.
That won't even be an issue.
Yeah. Right, so you've laid the groundwork for acceptance there. So I think you have to do that piece. And then I think kind of what's woven into this is like, oh, like when two girls have a sleepover and they're just friends, then it's okay to say yes. But like if this was a boy and a girl situation, would I be allowing a sleepover? So there's a sexual activity piece that I'm reading between the lines in that question because she's asking me to sleepover.
Right.
You know, the thing is, if she hasn't, she's going to come out at her own time. I don't think you can make that go any faster than somebody is ready to. And the truth is, when kids want to start being sexually active, they're going to find a way to do it. It doesn't necessarily need to be at a sleepover. It's going to be after school, you know, in the parking lot. Like you're not stopping sexual exploration. It's going to progress. It's just where. So the more important thing is just have conversations about, you know, you're never go farther than your little inner voice says that you're okay with, right? So it's really conversations about consent, which again, every parent should be having with their kid before they're in this, because if they're in the moment, that's when parents are like, Mom, what do you think? Why are you mentioning this?
Yeah.
Like if you start these conversations earlier, then they're less directed at them. They're more curiosity conversations.
Well, and we go through something like this, not exactly the same, but you know, having boy and girl twins.
Yeah.
Who are a minute apart, all of their friends, well, they have very different friend groups. When you invite a friend for a sleepover, you're in a situation where you're in a home with the opposite sex. And so we've dealt with those kinds of situations. And you just figure it out. You figure it out as it goes, and you trust and you value that what you have done and what you have created will allow for proper situations. But
we want to add. We want to empower every child to be able to manage themselves in the various situations that they're going to get in life, versus trying to clean up life so that our child doesn't have to face situations.
Right.
You know, we want to prepare them, not protect them. That's the bottom line, and that's going to be the same with getting into, you know, upcoming sexual encounters. They need to be trained and prepared and ready for that, and that comes with our education. We can't say, I'm sorry, you're hitting pubescence. I'm going to now put you under house arrest.
but we'd like to.
At 21, we'll let you out again. Yeah,
That's right.
No, we have to. They need to be able to go speak up and advocate for themselves.
Few seconds. Your website has a wealth of information for parents.
Yes, there's blog posts and which are all searchable. There's videos up there. I've got my podcast now, and there's the last episodes are there as well, and then all my links to my social handles. So I'm posting content all the time on social media as well, and engaging with parents in that format. So hop on over there and then follow me everywhere.
Very good. Yeah, everywhere.
Everywhere, including right here on Rogers TV.
Yes, very good. Nice way to end the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's nice to be here with you. It's nice to be here with everyone at home, too. And until next time, we'll see you later. This has been The Parenting Show.